Okay, so your new album's coming out. Your debut on Warner Brothers. What can people expect from this project, and like who'd you collaborate for it?
I think, well, on this project, I think you can expect a mature J DaVeY sound. It's, progression, a nice progression from what you've heard us do recently. And that's always our thing. We want to show our listeners, always, take one step above, where we were the last time. So I think it's definitely a progressive sound. Well, I don't know.
I mean, this is the longest we've spent on, actually making music, which sometimes it's like giving a curse with that, like, you're taking your time with it, but I think we've definitely held on to some really strong pieces that we want to put out on this.
It's a broader sound. I think it will appeal to a lot more people, and that's the goal of an artist. You want to reach as many people as possible, and expand your fan base. So I definitely think we'll be able to do this or do that with this material. As far as collaborators, we didn't collaborate with a lot of artists, but we collaborated with a lot of great producers. Greg Wells, who's worked with Katy Perry, Timberland, and also Dave Siddick from TV on the Radio, and Greg Kirsten from The Bird and the Bee, and songwriters Kathy Dennis that wrote Toxic for Britney Spears and Can't Get You Out of My Head by Kylie Minogue, and Kara Diagardi from American Idol. Some heavy hitters. Exciting.
And then when is it going to come out?
June. Mid-June.
For people who don't really know, okay, so you know how your first album came out in 2008, and then this one now, for people who don't know why was there such a big gap between them?
Well, you sign to a label, and it's the hurry up and wait game. So, what a label does is they collect, artists with buzz, and then they sit on them until it makes sense. And you kind of do the dance where you collect material and you turn it in, and you try to get everyone on the same page. And that takes a while with such a major machine like that. But at a certain point, I think, as our fans have seen, we don't typically like to sit around and wait for too long. So that's why we've been releasing EPs and releasing music despite the fact that, we're signed and, working on this grand project. But at the same time, record label aside, this is the first time that we've actually had time to dig into our artistry and really learn how to become a better producer and a better writer and a better performer. So, this experience has been so near and dear to us that we wanted to take our time. I think with the first album that we put out, we were just feeding the frenzy and just putting out music, you know what I'm saying? And some of it wasn't finished, some of it wasn't mixed, mastered, and now we had the opportunity to really sit and dig into the process, and that's exactly what we wanted to do, And I think we finally got something that we're really proud of. If it would have happened any earlier than this, it just wouldn't have been right. So that just is what it is.
You guys just released The Evil Christian.
Yeah.
And from the two that you've released so far, they kind of both have a different sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's supposed to be three of them. So what's the next one going to sound like? Or when they're going to come out?
The next one, we're not sure. We're kind of toying between an instrumental album and something else. We're not sure. We know what it's called. It's called POMP, P-O-M-P. And that stands for something which we will not divulge right now.
Okay, and then how do you get the themes for them too?
It's pretty much out the ether.
Yeah, we don't really like to think a lot of things through. We just kind of like to stumble upon the artistry, and that's always the best thing to do, because it gets a little pretentious when you start to think about it too much. So we just let it be what it's gonna be.
I always feel like all of our titles and things are like inside jokes.
Yeah,
for the most
definitely.
part. But then somehow they end up applying to, you know, certain circumstances and situations. They become like meaningful like after the fact, but I don't think we ever put that much work into like it has to mean this. Like I don't know what the fuck this means. You know, but it's gonna mean something eventually. Like J DaVeY doesn't really mean anything, but it's like the name. You know what I mean? But it has more so to do with who's involved, what's involved, what it sounds like, and all that. So I think that's how we approach, you know, what we do.
For you, you're a really good producer.
Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. But
Pretty cool.
you have like your own sound, kind of. So like, what are your influences, or like who are your influences?
I mean, when I was growing up, I would listen to a lot of new wave, jazz fusion, like prog rock stuff. Like my parents were really heavily into soul, and you know, I didn't get really introduced to hip hop until maybe the early '90s or something. So it was weird because even though like I knew about hip hop, it wasn't really influential in production until then. So you know, at that time, you know, Dilla, Tribe, you know, Neptunes started popping. Not actually, that was actually later. But I'm trying to think of what artists, like hip hop artists. I think I got Redman, Biggie, Outkast, Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders, and Do You Want More, The Roots, all at the same time. So just with that kind of progression of, you know, the music I was listening to, I just incorporate everything. I try to make a gumbo in near every song. You know, sometimes it's hit or miss, and I don't even know until like I play it for somebody else and I'm like, oh, that sounds like this one. I have no idea. I'm just throwing everything in the pot. So that's usually my approach and influences for the most part.
Okay, and then if you could give advice to like anyone who's trying to become a producer, like what would you tell them?
First off, just don't try to do it. Just either do it or not. Like it's definitely. I mean, I don't know. I'm still learning a lot. You know, you don't really. If you have a passion to do it, you should just learn as much as you can about it. I mean, like I said, I'm constantly in school, just learning new tricks and attempting to be better at what I do. So you know, that's why you can't just try to do it. It's like it's definitely a commitment. You know, but I think really you should never focus on. You can always practice, you know, doing somebody else's style just to kind of see, you know, where your space is, but always attempt to be original, like at all times, because I hate turning on the radio, which I don't do, or listening to iTunes or downloading something, and it's sounding like, okay, I understand you're influenced by this, but I don't want it to be like a direct, like, rib. You know, I thrive off of like, you know, hearing things that I've never heard before. So, you know, I would hope that anybody who wants to start making music wants to make something that hasn't been created before, and there's nothing new under the sun, but just give me a new perspective. You know, I think it's a good challenge. Keeps things interesting.